Oh, and we're live. Welcome in, everyone. Do you guys know I actually forgot to plug in my microphone? So if you cannot hear me, just give me a minute. And we will get started. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. I guess I was so excited to see you guys. I totally forgot about my microphone. Okay, welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Who is joining me live today? Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. I'm very excited to see you guys. As you can see, I started a video without plugging in my microphone. That speaks of excitement. So welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. I'm so happy to be here. We have a very interesting topic to talk about today. And then I have an announcement for you guys. And that's it. Okay. All right. So we're going to get started. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. For those of you who are seeing me or hearing me for the first time, you are welcome. My name is Eby, and I'm a leadership and wellness coach, and I work with organizations and senior leadership teams to bring wellness as part of their resilience strategy. And so one of the themes that I've been seeing in my work with leadership teams, leaders and their teams, is that there's a lot of miscommunication, and there's a lot of stress, and there's a lot of misunderstandings that are primarily caused by leaders who don't know what their leadership style is. And so what tends to happen is that because they don't know what their primary style is, they don't know how to influence their teams and to manage up and manage down. And so that brings a lot of stress, right? That brings a lot of stress to them. And so what I'm planning to do over the course of the coming weeks is we're going to talk about the various leadership styles. So if you are someone that is in a leadership role or you're planning to be, listen up. So we're going to talk about what are the primary styles that people tend to exhibit when they're in a leadership role. And then based on that, we're going to talk about what are the primary things that cause them to be stressed out and what you can do to start to build resilience as part of your leadership strategy. So without further ado, hi Shalene, welcome in. Let's get started. And I have my notes here if you guys see me looking down. So there's so many models that psychologists have put out there when it comes to assessing various leadership styles. One of my favorite ones is the DISC model, right? So it was created by a psychologist called William Marston. And essentially what he did was he studied how people react when they are placed in an environment, right? And there's a perception of control. He studied how they react when they find themselves in certain kinds of environment, if you want to put that there. And what he came up with was what we call the DISC model, right? And so from his perspective, there were 4 primary emotional behaviors that people tend to exhibit. And today we're going to be talking about the first one, which is the D. I think I'm wearing the colors, and I'm going to try to do that. So the first one is called the dominant model. And this before I actually go into the details, let me just quickly talk about the other ones. So D here is for dominant. I is primarily for people who lead with influence. S is primarily for people who lead with stability, emotional stability and calm. And then C is primarily for people who are more analytical, so conscientious. So primarily people who are more analytical and like to have the numbers up to the decimal points and they're very logical, and people like that fall under the conscientious model. And so for today, the reason why I'm focusing on the dominant model first is because This is a model that I tend to see in a lot of high pressure environments, especially in the cybersecurity world or in the tech world as well. We tend to see a lot of leaders who have this primary style. And so if you are someone who's in leadership and you're wondering if you're a dominant type, there are three primary things or behaviors that I'd love to highlight in the dominant types. One of them is decisiveness. Of all those styles that I've seen, this dominant type, they are very decisive. They already know that what they want. And so for them, it's pretty much A to B and B to C, right? So they don't like indecisiveness. I'm going ahead of myself, but they are very clear on what they want to achieve. They're very clear on the outcome, which takes me to my second point, is that they're very goal-oriented. They're very goal-focused. They're very outcome-focused. If you want to get something done, put a dominant leader in there, because from their perspective, they're going to get it done. So you have a choice. You either choose to work with them or get out of their way, because either way, they are going to get things done. And it's a great thing, right? Like, who don't want to have a dominant leader, especially when you own like a business or you have an organization? Who don't want to put a dominant leader in there, right? Because they're going to get the bottom line done for you. And so you do tend to see a lot of CEOs having this type of personality or leadership style. Now, the thing with these types of leaders is that there are certain attributes that they lack that causes them to feel stressed out. Okay? And so one of the very first triggers that can make these types of leaders feel stressed out is inefficiency. So I said these leaders, they know what they want. They are they're laser focused. So if you tell them, I want to build this house in a year, they already know, okay, 1 year, this house, this is what we're going to do. And so when they get to dealing with people that are wasting time in their perspective or from their perspective, they start to get annoyed because they don't like inefficiency. Inefficiency costs them time. And because they're focused on the bottom line, they don't want to miss that. And so what tends to happen is that they start to become frustrated when they perceive any sort of inefficiency in the process. And part of that frustration also comes from working with people that they perceive as indecisive. Now, have you ever seen a situation where you have different leaders and managers, and there's one primary person who's in that meeting, that's leading the meeting, and is talking, giving their viewpoints and controlling the whole room. And then you have another leader that is being asked certain questions, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have to think about that. I'm not really sure how that will work, but yeah, we're going to have to take more time. And what tends to happen is, for the dominant types, if this is something that is causing a roadblock in their path to their goal, they start getting annoyed with the person that is delaying the decision making, because they're like, it's clear. What do you need to think about? Right? What do you need to think about? And I tend to call this dominant types movers, right? Psychologists do call them drivers, but I also call them movers, because from their perspective, they're fine as long as things are moving forward. Yeah, humans like that, but primarily because again, they're focused on the outcome, things need to move so that they can feel comfortable. Okay? Another thing that tends to get them really frustrated, and this one I've actually seen it in person too as well, is when you try to control them or when you're trying to micromanage what they're doing. This one, they tend to have adverse reactions because now you're infringing on their autonomy, and their identity is built on having a certain autonomy over the work that they do. That's why they're so confident in their ability to achieve a certain goal, because they have mastery and control over themselves. So when you're coming in with trying to restrict what they do and trying to micromanage them and control them, they feel disrespected. They feel like you're not honoring the fact that they are able to get things done for you. And so they can react in very, very adverse ways. They can lash out. They can come across as aggressive, and when you're pushing back against someone who's trying to control them. Now, is it because they cannot be controlled? No, it's more so because they feel like you are disrespecting them because you do not trust in their ability to get things done. And so from their perspective, they feel like you don't trust them, right? And when they feel like you don't trust them, then they feel like you don't value them. Okay, so if this is your primary style, again, I'm just going to reiterate, are you finding that you get frustrated by people who take their time to do things, who take their time to make decisions, who take their time to vet something properly or take some time to do more analysis? If so, you're primarily falling under this leadership style. And what you will notice is that when you're in the presence of other people, from other people's perspective, they feel disconnected from you. They feel disconnected from you. And the reason why is because leaders or people who primarily operate within this style, they're operating in their mental plane primarily, and they're often disconnected from their emotional body. And so what tends to happen with them is that when they're feeling stressed out too, in addition to feeling frustrated, they tend to push others around them, or they tend to take on so much, right? And so what happens is that because they're not connected to other people's emotions, or they're not aware of other people's emotions because they're disconnected from their body, people feel like they don't care about them. People feel like all they care about is the goal that they want to achieve, and they don't care about them. And so there's that disconnect with their teams and the people that they're working with. The problem with being disconnected with the people that you're leading and you're supposed to influence is that you cannot influence someone that is not connected to you. They might comply with you because you're in the corporate world and they have a job to keep, but I promise you, when they get into a situation where they have to throw you under the bus, they're gonna do that. They're gonna do that because now you're going to see them for what they really feel about you. So that's the problem. That's the primary problem with operating in this type of leadership style and not being connected to the people around you. And so I wanted to share a story. I'm thinking, do I share it now? Okay. Maybe I'll reserve it to the end. Another problem that leaders who primarily lead with this style is when they're stressed out, they also exhibit more behaviors that tend to be more controlling. Now, from their perspective, what they're seeing is that when there's some sort of inefficiency or a barrier or a block in their path, what they start to feel is that they start to feel some sort of anxiety that they're losing control over the situation. Now, their identity is built on having autonomy and control over the work that they do. So when they start to feel that chip away, it rubs negatively on their self-esteem. And so they start to overcompensate for that by engaging in more controlling behaviors. To other people, it feels like someone is literally trying to grab you, and someone is literally trying to move you to do certain things that you don't want to do. From the leader's perspective, they start to disguise the thing as urgent. So what will happen is, because they're feeling anxiety over their lack of control in their ability to meet this specific project or thing that they're working towards, they start disguising requests as, oh, this is urgent, this is urgent, this is urgent. And what will tend to happen is your team is going to burn out. Your team is going to feel like you don't care about them. They're going to feel like all you care about is yourself and the bottom line. And eventually they'll burn out, eventually they'll leave, eventually they'll throw you under the bus when they have the chance to. So you see why it's important to, first of all, be aware of the kind of style that you have so that you can take measures to balance it. It's a beautiful thing to have this personality / leadership style. But if it's not balanced, you can run into trouble and you can become a scapegoat even when you're doing your best. Okay? Because people tend to interpret your best like you're doing too much and you don't care about that. But they don't see it from your own perspective where things need to get done. So the question is, what do you do about it? What do you do about it? So first thing that I tell leaders all the time is you're going to have to reorient your mind towards what you think strength means. So often with people that have this type of trait and behavior, their entire success and identity is built on being the dominant type. So for them, if they're not being that way, then it will feel like they're not strong or they're not successful. Look at what's going on today. I don't want to call names, but look at what's going on today within the geopolitical space, right? We're seeing certain personality types that are more dominant in a leadership role, and there's this negative perception about them because they think strength means bullying and dominating people, but that's not what strength means. So you're going to have to change your perception of what strength means. And it's going to have to come from a place where not only are you able to stand in your power, but you also do it from a place of empathy. You also do it from a place of balance. You also do it from a place of connectedness. You also do it from a place where you understand that you are working with humans, not ChatGPT, not robots. And when you encounter situations where there's inefficiency or people are delaying, they're not the problem. You are not the problem. The situation is. So you're going to have to, again, integrate the ability to relax and rest. When there's a slowdown in the process, take it as part of the process instead of getting annoyed, getting irritated. Slow down and see it as part of the process. Especially when it's out of your control, because this is where things tend to get very messy, is when the block that you're seeing is out of your control. Most dominant types, they start doing all sorts of things to try to regain control back, but there are certain situations that are not within your control and there's nothing you can do about it. So learning to change your mindset to focus on the things that you can control and seeing blocks and limitations as part of the process and working with them in such a way where you are not taking over other people's space, but you're seeing them for who they are as people and working with their style to get the things done. Okay? Part of that is learning to pause and slow down. So when you look at the graph, right? So when you look at the graph for people who have this primary type, when you were to visualize the way their nervous system is, it's like this: action, 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 move to the next one, onto the next one, onto the next one, onto the next one, onto the next one. So their nervous system is always moving forward. It's always moving forward. Action, action, action. And they struggle with relaxing. So if you are someone who notices that you cannot sit still, that's a sign. So you want to start learning how to calm, relax, and almost move into a state of meditation. And meditation will help you. So learning how to integrate stillness as part of your routine. Whenever you notice that you're getting triggered or annoyed by people who are just slow, who have a slower pace in life, pause for about 5 seconds. Breathe. And ask yourself, why are you annoyed? Okay? So if I were to give you 3 things, the first thing is changing your mindset to redefine the way that you see strength. Strength isn't always about moving and shaking and dominating people and taking over the whole space. That's not all what strength is. Part of strength is being able to stand in your own truth, which is what you're doing, but at the same time carry people along where they feel seen and heard by you. When you have that, you're going to be what we call an exceptional leader. The second thing is learn to slow down. Part of your annoyance and part of the irritation and the anger that you feel and the stress that you feel is because you're moving very fast. It's also the reason why you're very successful. It's also the reason why people come to you to get things done, because it's what you are known for. But at the same time, your nervous system has been wired to move fast. And so when things are not moving fast, it starts to feel like there's a stressor, like there is a threat. And that's why you're feeling stressed out. So learn to slow down. Practice meditation and breathing techniques. These will help you slow your nervous system down. Whenever you find a situation that you're annoyed, slow down. Okay? Pause, breathe, and slow down. Put yourself deliberately in situations where you are forced to slow down, and that would help you. And the final thing that I would say is delegation. So what I've seen from working with people with this leadership style is that they are very, because again, their identity is built on the work that they do, so they like to take control over many things. And because they're taking control over many things, they struggle with letting people do their part. They struggle with delegation. They're the kinds of people that if you're supposed to do a certain part, they're supposed to do a certain part, and they're waiting for you and you don't do it, they'll do your part and keep moving forward. Remember I said, you either move with them or get out of their way. So learn to delegate, because the more you delegate, the more you would be able to be more empathetic to other people. Learn to hold your team along and trust the people that you're leading. Trust that they're capable. If someone's taking more time than they should, instead of thinking that they're inefficient, incapable, and don't know what they're doing, slow down and chat with them. And trust them and empower them so that they can help you help the organization or the project that you're working towards. Okay? So let me see. This was supposed to be a very short training. So next week we're going to talk about the second style. So that's the leaders that primarily lead with influence. And this training that I'm doing is not just for people who are already in leadership roles, but you could be running a business and you're leading yourself and you're leading your team as well. Or you could be in a situation as a parent where you're leading your children. Either way, you need to understand what your primary emotional response is and how to work with that to bring down stress. That's the goal. Bring down stress and build resilience as part of your strategy. And so next week, we're going to talk about the influence type, and subsequent weeks, we'll talk about the stable and the conscientious types. I also have an announcement for you guys. So we have a new section. It's called Resilience. It's actually a podcast. And I'm going to be having conversations with well-respected leaders within the cybersecurity industry and other industries as well, but primarily within cybersecurity industry. For those of you who don't know, that's my industry. And you're going to hear from them on how they're leading well and how they're building their team and what they're doing to build resilience under pressure. So you want to stay tuned from that. It's going to come in subsequent weeks, but I'm going to put out the information. You're going to enjoy this conversations that I'm having with these leaders, because they are what I call cherry picked, and they're people that are well respected. I respect them too as well. And just by hearing their story, it's going to change your life on how you're leading yourself. So stay tuned for that, and I'll share more details as the week progresses. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you sometime next week. Okay, have an enjoyable rest of the week. Bye.